So what we have here is we're shooting in 4K at 30 frames per second, and we have the gyro stabilizer on, which is your smooth motion. And as you can see in this, it's not 100% perfect. It isn't really on par with GoPro's software, but it does do a pretty good job to mimic kind of being on a sub-decent stabilizer. So what we're seeing here is probably something equivalent to $100 to maybe $200, maybe $300 tops stabilizer attached to the action camera. Only this is all being done within the software itself, so it isn't too bad. We could probably get better with one of those an actual handheld gyro, but this is doing pretty good by, just on its own. So it's definitely a win for SJCAM. Now what we have is we have 4K with 60 frames per second. We've taken the gyro stabilizer off because the gyro stabilizer does not work with 60 frames per second. So now you get an idea of what it looks like without any stabilization turned on internally. And we're still doing 60 frames per second, no stabilizer with a selfie shot, and now we got the stabilizer turned on at 30 frames per second. And walking to the side here, you can see how smooth it is. This is on a selfie stick, of course, but this looks really good walking with the subject. It's pretty smooth and way better than some of the older cameras. And of course, now we have some slow motion with 30 frames per second. As soon as you switch it over to slow-mo, it defaults to 1080p at 30 frames per second, so you're not going to get a high frame rate, and you're not going to get it at 4K, but you still get some really decent slow motion, which makes for some great footage.